You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 311.1. Susie, 311.1. Can you believe it? The Major League Baseball report with Codey Emerson and Uncle Paul. We also had a drop-in from Tigers fan Grant Shouse, who wanted to talk about his Tigers, who we all agree might just be the best team in Major League Baseball. But we start, as we always do, unless there's a reason not to, with the Cincinnati Reds and the National League Central.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengel.
Welcome, baseball fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report and the MLB Report with Codey Emerson and Uncle Paul Tipton here to, review the week in Major League Baseball and talk about the news and the latest games. And we're going to start, of course, with the Cincinnati Reds because, guys, I think this is legit. What do you think?
We touched on it last week, and they just, to reiterate what I was talking about last week, they're doing this against the best part of one could say it might be probably the hardest part of their schedule, or one of the hardest parts of their schedule. I mean,
that's what's been impressive about it.
You beat the Padres today, and then the pitching has been once again phenomenal, which, Greg, I think you owe Nick Martinez an apology.
I definitely owe Nick Martinez an apology. We might as well get to that right now. Although I will say, I still think the best case scenario for the Reds, Paul, is for Nick Martinez to be out of the bullpen. But he was so good a couple of nights ago.
I thought he was listening to you to show what kind of starter he could be.
If he's like that every night, I hope he's out there as often as possible. And again, I have no issues with him as a starting pitcher. He's an awfully good number 5. I have a hard time believing that there's anyone good enough in the National League Central if the Reds do what they've been doing the last few weeks, and that's jumping on the board early, playing from ahead, giving their pitchers a bit of an easy time, even against the best teams. And we saw what they did to the Yankees. Very well could have swept the Yankees and the Padres.
Yeah, I mean, and then you look at this month, and the only series that they've lost is the very, very beginning of the month against Milwaukee, and then
Milwaukee.
Then, I mean, you're losing to a series of St. Louis, but every other series the Reds have won. And if you can win 2 out of every 3 games for an entire month, you're going to be making some serious ground, and you're going to be making some serious noise in the division. I know we're going to get to that in a second, but the Reds are proving that they are. You can't let this just be the month where you get hot, you play well, and then you have a bad month. They got to build this. I mean, you can't.
And that's what they've done in the past. Is this has been a little longer though, Paul, that we've seen before. Well, and it looks like I said, like it might be legit now. Finally,
they've had their moments. Now, in the last 10 games, they're 5-5.
Right.
So I don't think we should be getting ahead of over our skis a little bit. The Brewers are 8-2 in their last 10.
Well, we're here to talk about the National League Central, Paul, and that's the thing is everybody's playing well except for the Cubs. And as Will said when he was here last time, the Cubs are about to find out how good they are because of their schedule.
I think it's going to be a very interesting race, and I think the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Reds, and the Cubs I don't think anybody's going to run away with it.
And the Pirates have been playing well.
Just swept the Mets, which makes me happy, so.
I have a note on that later when we switch divisions.
I do want you talk about the schedule for the Reds looking ahead to July. I mean, you play Boston, and then you actually end the All-Star break with 4 games against the Marlins and 3 against the Rockies. Talk about going in, if you can, I mean, you have a series with the Philly. You go to Philly before that against the Marlins. That'll be a tough series. It always is, playing in Citizens Bank Ballpark, but you couldn't really ask for a better end as far as the schedule goes, and they're all at home too. You end with 7 straight games at home right before the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, at the Mets, which who knows which version of the Mets you're going to get. You have the Rays, and then 4 against the Dodgers, or 3 against the Dodgers. There are some tough teams. I mean, it's a tough July, a little bit, especially after the All-Star break. But, I mean, these next few weeks will really kind of see what the Reds are made of. I really think that they can continue the momentum that they've built. And if you can have a month, if you can stack back-to-back great months in June and July, you're setting yourself up pretty well for the postseason.
I look at the Cardinals roster and I'm not sure how, but they're just doing it. And then we look at the Cubs, Paul, in particular. Yes, they've lost some games. Yes, they've been on a bit of a slump, I guess, playing against the schedule. But the fact that they're not in a tailspin against the schedule is probably a good sign.
They're just not scoring the way they were before.
Better
Even
pitching.
with good pitching, they seem to be scoring more often. So this was always your observation about the Reds. They would not score very well, and then score 12 runs in a game, and then go back to. So that it's. I would be concerned if I were. Imanaga came back and pitched great, so that was encouraging. But the bats have been less than impressive.
Yeah, I mean, in your losses, you're scoring just in this most recent stretch, you're scoring 2 runs. You scored at 7 against the Cardinals. 4 is okay. And then you get beat 2-0 to close out the series against the Astros, which not scoring runs and when you're getting great pitching production, something that I know all too well about with the Rays, but it's not ideal. It's your pitchers are pitching well for the most part. And you are playing a little tougher schedule, with the Astros. I mean, we can touch on the Astros later, but
We will.
It's something that, the Astros are, still kicking, despite, letting a lot of longtime veterans go.
The Cubs have 6 straight games at home this week, including 3 against the Cardinals. Needless to say, big week for the Cardinals, or for the Cubs. Starts with Cleveland, by the way, on Tuesday.
Yes, although this might be a good time to be playing Cleveland, they seem to. If the series against the Cardinals was any indication, that team has just fallen off.
It does. You go into the All-Star break with a pretty tough schedule. The Cleveland, they're kind of in a tailspin right now. They're the Cardinals, the Twins, and then you end it with going to the Yankees. That's not ideal. But then it eases up kind of in the latter half of July. You get the Red Sox, you get the Royals, the White Sox, and you end the month with the Brewers. So that's a key division series right there. But it does ease up a little bit from what they've been seeing the past few weeks.
I think it's probably going to be the most exciting division in all of baseball. With
it typically is
4 teams in there.
Can we talk about the fact that the National League Central has been better than the National League West? Because the National League Central has been better this season than the National League West. There's no doubt about it. You look at the head-to-head comparisons. You take out the Dodgers, then it's not even close. But I think even including the Dodgers, head-to-head, the Central is better than the West, which never thought that was possible.
I would agree. Even if you leave the Rockies out of the consideration.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yes. The Giants are cooling off. The Padres look beatable quite
lazy
often.
and not interested. That's what they look.
It does seem that way. Although, man, Suarez looked terrible today. And he has looked terrible a few times. So he leads the league in saves, but just you never know what you're going to get when he rolls out there.
The National League Central is the only team that can say that they have four of their 5 teams over 500.
Mm-hmm.
Pirates have been playing well, too. All right, well, let's talk about the champion in the room here, and that's, of course, the Milwaukee Brewers, who may be playing as well as anybody in baseball. Of course, it helps, again, that you're playing the Rockies. They did lose to the Rockies today, which cooled them off a bit, but they were 8-1 in their last 9 before that. Of course, playing the Pirates, the Twins, again, helps. And now they go to New York and Miami, which is suddenly looking like a team we need to talk about too. Cody, there were thoughts coming into the season that Miami was kind of young and maybe one of those teams that can kind of maybe make a move this year. They suddenly look like they are too.
I mean, the Marlins are always they're hard to figure out
They are.
because they have. I mean, you have Sandy Alcantara, who, when he's right, is still, I will say, one of the better pitchers in the National League. And then you have a ton of young talent, like you said, Greg, and it's the 37 and 45 winners of 7 straight. And all of a sudden, well, also because the Nationals are tailspin, the Marlins aren't in last place. And what's even scarier for me
For you
is they're only a half game back of the Braves in the division, which, right. I mean, yeah, Marlins are, I will say, across baseball, it is fun to see when a young team starts to figure things out. I mean, sometimes it never happens.
Well, that's what we're talking about with the Reds. I was starting to think maybe it would never happen. Great timing. We are now joined by Grant Shouse because we were about to talk about the young team that has figured things out, and that, of course, is the Detroit Tigers. Grant is our resident Detroit Tiger fan. Wanted to bring him in to talk about the Tigers, so good timing. Let's just ask the room, and we'll start with Grant. Is this right now? It's pretty easy to see they're the best team in the American League. Maybe you could argue the Astros or Yankees, but are they the best team in baseball, Grant?
Well, of course, I'm going to say yes, right? They're pretty good. You know, they were the fastest team to, I think, 50 wins this year, I believe. They're so young, and you could see it last year when going into the month of August, had a less than 1% chance of making the playoff. We're a couple wins away from going to the American League Championship Series. So the roster was young, and they were able to make things happen, retain guys, get guys back. We talk about that a lot on Greg, the IU report, and how important it is to retain guys on your roster in all of sports. And the Tigers did that. I think a lot of part of their success has been their pitching. I mean, they have arguably the best pitcher in baseball with Tariq Skubal. They're playing on Sunday Night Baseball right now against the Minnesota Twins. He's on the hill, and they're a tough team to beat. They're going to be a tough team to beat come October, and I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see them make another deep postseason run.
11-game lead in the American League Central. You got to love that.
That's really good. They this year, for the first time since 2013, they were 20 games above 500, and that's impressive. And we've seen this team be hit rock bottom and be one of the lowest of the lows.
Not long ago.
Not that long ago. I mean, this decade really is what's crazy. And they're such a fun team to watch, and they play the game the right way. And I'm really excited to see what they can do, because I think they're going to continue this, even if they don't win it all or go to the World Series next year. This year, I think this is going to continue for many years to come down the line. And I hope I never have to see them go through another rebuild in my lifetime like I did, from about 2016, 2017 till last year.
Oh, unless you're a Yankees fan, you will a rebuild in your lifetime.
Oh, I'm sure. But I wake up every day and I thank the good Lord I'm not a Yankees fan.
Amen to that.
Uncle Paul, they are just on you. Guys, Tigers, is it legit?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mean this to rain or to kind of discredit how well Detroit is playing, but the American League Central is once again living up to its just god-awful status. I mean, you usually have a team or two. Usually it's the Guardians and the Twins. You can throw the Royals in there every, couple of years. They find a way to contend. The Detroit Tigers, who are the best team in baseball, yes.
We will be bleeping out the G word on the podcast, by the way. Uncle Paul, your thoughts on the Tigers?
The Tigers are the best team in the American League and the second best team in baseball right now.
Dodgers.
After the Dodgers.
Dodgers being the best. Grant disagrees. Yes. That's what we like. Go ahead, Grant.
Of course I disagree. In terms of most hated sports teams, I hate the Yankees and I hate the Dodgers. So when they played each other in the World Series last year, I believe it or not, I was rooting for the Dodgers. It's nothing personal with the Yanks. It's just
they win too much.
One of the most insufferable people I've ever met is a Yankees fan. And
that's where my hatred comes from.
You can hang out with me for a little while, Grant. You'll probably change your mind. So
that's right.
I hope so. I'm looking for a Yankees fan to come along and change that narrative.
I cheered for the Dodgers in the 1981 World Series, and then I got a hold of my Uncle Paul, got a hold of me and said, "What are you doing? That's wrong."
The Yankees were a very hateable team a long time ago, but in the last 5 years,
this team is very likable.
It's impossible to hate the Yankees, and I don't see how anybody outside LA
it's the franchise.
Can like the Dodgers.
It's hard. I was a guy who always kind of liked the Dodgers. They were my playoff team. It's gotten to the point with the roster. I'm convinced that after the All-Star break that everyone who was an All-Star is going to be a Dodger by the end of the season. It's just hard to watch.
I have a strong personal take that we can get into later about that.
Now's the perfect time, Cody.
I mean, I just think and I've seen people talk, it's been a hot topic for years. The fan voting in the All-Star game needs to stop. If you're not going to take it, people don't take it seriously.
It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry, Andy Pajes is not an All-Star.
My problem with that is having to have somebody from every team. You're telling me there has to be somebody
I agree on that too.
On this All-Star team?
I 1,000,000% agree with that. The fan vote, you're telling me Andy Pajes deserves to be an All-Star. That is what the fans are saying.
Well, that's what the fans want. Paul, your thoughts on those two topics?
I have lost interest in the All-Star game over
I'm
the
kind
years.
of that way too, a little bit, yeah.
All of them. Every All-Star game of every the baseball one used to be the only one that really mattered, and it doesn't even anymore.
Correct.
But still kind of a cool event. I don't know. It's Grant, your thoughts on the All-Star game?
I really like the home run derby more than the All-Star game. I loved the home run derby when I was a kid because there was always a couple guys. Like I remember one year when it was in Cincinnati. I believe it was the years in Cincinnati when Todd Frazier won it and Prince Fielder was in it. This is when he was in Detroit and he was in it and he had a good shot at winning. And I was rooting like hell for Prince Fielder to win it. And that was one of my favorite events. And always I feel like something nuts has happened. You know, one of those kids shagging balls out in the outfield gets hit in the face or something. I remember one year watching, I think it was in 2021. I don't remember who was hitting, but there was a guy and I saw it and the camera quickly panned away. And if anyone knows what I'm talking about, I'll be glad to hear it. There was a fan who fell over like a little railing out in the stands going after a ball. I think this was the year it was at Coors Field, and that just some interesting things have happened. That was always one of my favorite. That still is one of my favorite events, and
hey, Paul,
I still watch it.
Who did you watch when you were growing up on the home run derby?
The home run derby wasn't connected to the All-Star game when I was.
It was not. It was not. But it was still happened.
It was a weekly show. Yes, exactly. Yes,
and it was the best players of all time.
My interest now in the home run derby is to make sure that they enter people who are going to hit very few home runs in the second half of the season. That just seems to be a high correlation between the people who hit home runs.
Frazier. I don't think Todd Frazier hit another ball again that year. The home run derby tends to screw guys up. I don't know why.
I don't either, but
It's a
it's
batting
fun to
practice every
it's fun to
day.
see.
I
It's
hope
sure
that's
is
not the
interesting.
case.
Thanks,
Talk
Grant,
a little
for
Detroit
coming in and talking
Tigers.
Tigers. I wanted to bring in our
Yep.
Tigers guy. Thanks so much for your time.
Yep. Take care, guys. Appreciate
See
it.
you, Grant.
Hey, Grant,
Peace out.
So tell me, guys, what's on your mind?
I was watching the Met broadcast just because
I'm sorry.
I could not believe this Pirate score. Okay, so the Met announcers went and looked it up. The Mets, in all of their history, have never lost a series by more than 25 runs until this weekend. They were outscored 30-4 by the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That brings
So
joy to my heart.
here they are playing the Braves and playing the Phillies, and you knew that they had circled the weekend going to Pittsburgh to
Right.
think that they could get right. The pitching, which
They are
always
not right.
their pitching just didn't make any sense how good they were, and now you wake up and think, yeah, they're really not that good.
Like, seems that way.
Yeah, they brought back. Well, they hoped that Frankie Montas was gonna kind of help because I think he made his first start during that Braves series, and then still don't have Kodai Senga. Their pitching is. I mean, it's lackluster. I mean, they just don't have. They've kind of been riddled with injury a little bit. I
Last
won't say
week
now it's a
we were
sympathy for
talking
them.
about the Pirates having such a hard time scoring runs.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is what's so great about baseball. You just look at the
It
Mets,
really
and it's
is.
like the Pirates score 30 runs in 3 games. It's like, what?
Want to hear an
Yeah.
amazing stat about the last couple of weeks in baseball? Every single
Yes.
American League team went somewhere between 3-7 and 7-3 in the last 10 games. No one better, no one worse. This is
Not
like
even the
nope.
not the
Tigers.
Astros or the Tigers either.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Astros 7-3, Tigers 5-5 in their last, and still gaining games on everybody in their division.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened. Of course, the G words have lost 4 in a row. Good for them. Good for them. The two teams that are jumping off to me, Paul. I think when we did our preseason picks, people picked the Yankees, picked the Red Sox, picked the Orioles. Nobody picked the Rays or the Blue Jays.
Correct.
And there they are.
It's Tampa.
They
find a way.
It's flabbergasting, really.
Yeah, you could see it with Toronto. You could see the potential there with Toronto, but Tampa, just they get rid of all their best players and they just keep doing it.
Correct.
Well, when you you probably have the lock for the American League Rookie of the Year and Junior Caminero, who has just been a revelation for them. I mean,
It's really been their pitcher, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Tampa's always had, I feel like, very good rotation. I mean,
Seems like always.
I mean, when you look at go ahead, Paul.
They do. They seem to specialize in pitchers that didn't perform well or young talent. But they're hitting a lot better than I thought they ever could.
Yeah, true.
They are middle of the pack, just under the middle of the pack in terms of team ERA with a 3.71. But I mean, they're still as far as
they are putting it together. It's crazy. I keep expecting them to fall back, and I keep expecting the Yankees to leave that division behind, and Toronto and Tampa won't go away. Of course, the Yankees aren't playing that well either.
No, not really.
Better.
I think that's going to be a 3-team race.
You really do? You don't think the Yankees will shed them?
They might. I mean, I wouldn't bet on the Rays or the Blue Jays, but I wouldn't count them out. No, I don't think the Yankees have the horsepower to pull that far away from the other two.
The offenses look pretty good the last few days, though.
Well, if you ignore Saturday, not too bad.
Oh, I was seeing 7-0 win. Let me do that again. Edit 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If they get some runs, though, it just looks like an extraordinarily winnable division.
Yes, I'd agree. At least there's one division that might have a race in it. That's the only thing you can say. That's going to be that's all going to be wild card for the American League. That's
And
going to be the excitement.
what's up with the Mariners and the Rangers? Why are
I
they
don't.
both 2 years in a row now? We just thought they were better than the Astros, and they're just not, apparently.
Nope, they played each other today, and both teams tried to lose.
That's where that's headed.
I tell you what, and it pains me to say it, because I will never root for the Houston Astros a day in my life.
It's impressive.
You get rid of Kyle Tucker, you get rid of Bregman, you get rid of some of these long-term veterans.
3 different managers in 4 years or something,
Yeah,
5 years.
I mean that's another thing too. And gosh darn it, here they are still.
Freaking Jose Altuve.
Talk about a player that I can't stand.
I know, but he's so good.
For multiple reasons.
But he's so good.
Unfortunately. And he's unfortunately, I think, going to be in the Hall of Fame. But
all right, Cody, weekly Braves rant, go.
Team it's I don't know. Last week I was pretty optimistic.
We started to be a little optimistic.
And that's what I get. That is exactly what I get for starting to be optimistic, because they lost 2 out of 3 to Philly, which that was a series that they needed. Then you lose 13-0 in the series opener.
Oh.
And well, it's because Bryce Elder is the most. I'm pretty sure we could all throw better than Bryce Elder right now. And
coming off a couple ugly losses to the Mets.
This team they started off winning the first 2 against the Mets, and I was like, okay, here we go. And then they dropped the next 2, and then get beat 13-0 against Phillies. Won 6-1 in the middle of the series, and then lost 2-1 today because you can't give Spencer Strider any run support. So the starting pitching is.
I think we're going to know pretty soon here. They play the Angels and the Orioles, then the Athletics. If they don't win 6 of those 9, you can just turn out the lights, right?
If the starting pitching doesn't, that's the thing is we are. I'm pretty sure they might be having open tryouts for starters, with how we just don't have starting pitching depth. We are relying on. I'm hoping I'm going to get his first name right. Didier Fuentes, I think's his name. The kid is 20 years old. And we are relying on him basically as our fifth starter. He has pitched awful, but it's not his fault. He's not ready to be a major leaguer right now. But the Braves are worse with Chris Sale going down. They're just trying to throw out bodies, and it's not.
And the rest
working.
of the world rejoiced, right, Paul?
I have to tell you that Phillies Braves series had one of my 2 favorite batter-pitcher matchups, though. When Schwellenbach pitched against Schwarber, that was quite good. The only thing that could beat it out was when the Yankees and the Reds played each other, and Fried was pitching to Friedel.
Against Friedel.
Yeah, they both have Fried in their names, but they were freed from using it.
That's the thing about the Braves is their top. Sorry, I was going to say the top. I mean, Schwellenbach and he has Strider. They've pitched phenomenal. I mean, it's Bryce Elder needs to go. Fuentes is not major league ready, and then Grant Holmes has pitched pretty solid,
fairly well, yeah.
But they don't have a closer right now. I mean, that stat that I sent you guys shortly after we recorded the podcast last Sunday, I think it was 35 straight games or whatever that the Braves didn't record a save. It was
Yikes.
they don't have a closer. The bullpen hasn't been awful. The offense has just been inconsistent. I mean, Spencer Strider gives you a very good start against the Phillies, and you only get the only run we scored was an Austin Riley solo home run. No, Sean Murphy, excuse me. But
Yikes.
it's just
Sounds like the
inconsistent.
Reds of old.
Yeah, it's bad.
Also, if I was a Braves fan, I would have really been aggravated. They're behind 2-1, so they bring in Iglesias to pitch in the ninth inning. He looks fabulous. He's putting the ball right where he wants it. He goes through a 1-2-3 inning, no trouble when they're a run behind.
Right.
If they had been a run ahead, you wouldn't expect him to do that.
They've basically, he's been demoted from that closer role.
But he's still the best person they have, probably. I mean, let's be honest.
Dylan Lee is probably their closer right now. He's been lights out. I think he should be an all-star. But yeah, that's the only thing I have left on.
An all-star. Ever.
I mean, you go look at his numbers and tell me that's not all-star worthy.
I say no middle reliever should ever be an all-star. They're in the bullpen because they're not as good as the starters.
But
let the starters come in the middle relief in the all-star game.
Speaking of the all-star game and home run derby, then I'm hoping Acuna, who committed the home run derby, obviously it's in his home ballpark, puts on a good show.
Yeah, and then bats 210 in the second half of the season. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate it. And Uncle Paul, it's always a good summer when the Reds are in the thick of things.
It really is, because my nephew's happy. I got, all the Reds fans. It's great.
Your friend, you have one of your best friends is a Reds fan.
Correct. Yes, his name is also Greg. So
That's right.
I keep up with every development from Great American Ballpark and the team on the road. So yes, let's have a fun NL Central 4-team race.
Just makes things so much better around here when the Reds and the Cubs are in the mix of things. Thanks so much to Cody and to Paul for joining me once again. This will be routine for the Major League Baseball report on Monday morning every week, at least until the football season begins. And by then, we'll probably start having more MLB reports because we will be getting down to the nitty-gritty of the season. If you're interested in seeing us continue to grow and thrive, please share the Central Indiana Sports Report with your friends, family, strangers, and enemies. Thanks for producing producer Susie. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love you, producer Susie.